statistics, information, reports, trend lines being shown over and over and over. Not much has really been done over the last 20 odd years or so.
The state of South Africa's rail networks is deplorable and in an ever more declining state. Joining me to unpack this issue is Mr. Elvin Harris. He is the president of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and he's recently written an article for Focus magazine in which he unpacks the different data behind the decline of rail, but also how more freight has moved onto the roads. Elvin, thanks very much for being here with us today. To just start off with your article and some of the numbers that you highlight, you point out, for example, that the investment picture for road versus rail shows that since 2008, the road network has received over 10 times the amount of investment as the rail network. Why do you think this has been the case? What perhaps lies behind that?
One of the reasons over the years that road has gotten so much investment is because government largely funds the road investment. There's a huge budget, and that budget has increased from maybe around 10 years ago. I don't have that number exact, but maybe about 10, 12 years ago, government's budget towards road infrastructure and maintenance was around 34 billion per annum across national, provincial, and local roads. Obviously, some of the national roads, as we know, N3 and 4, and a major toll roads run by the private sector concession groupings, and the maintenance and upkeep of those roads are good, but it's still via a government mechanism. And that figure at the moment I think stands over close to 70 billion rand that government spends annually these years on road infrastructure. And you contrast that with investment that's gone in the rail infrastructure, the railway systems. Transnet has to find money out of its balance sheet. It's got to go through its lenders. It's got to, obviously derive the income from its customer base to reinvest into its networks and its systems. And there has been very little direct support. And remember, in particular here, the article was focused very much on the freight space. We do know that government has been spending a lot of money on passenger rail. Even before the collapse, there was an annual subsidy for passenger rail and passengers of passenger rail services. The network side of PRASA also was not as invested to the extent that it needed to be, as well as on the rail side for Transnet. So I think we have, in my own view, having worked in this space since the late 90s with Moving South Africa project, I think that's been a consistent trend, that there hasn't been a lot of other funding going to the rail networks other than what Transnet has to put in on its own.
Elvin, you also highlight in your article that you expect road freight demand to triple from 300 to 900 billion tons per kilometer as the economy grows over the next 30 years. Do you foresee any particular points in terms of reforms that government might be aware of, how much this will increase and how much we need to upgrade and improve our road freight network? Do you maybe hear some good noise coming, or do you think that maintenance is simply going to struggle to catch up all the time?
I think government is aware. In fact, the data that I actually used for that was from a report that was done for government by Gain and Stellenbosch University for a particular project. So government is aware. People like the National Treasury, the DTI, the Department of Transport, they would be receiving those kinds of reports and very well aware of such. But it's also not the first time that these kinds of reports and information and statistics have been presented and shared. As I said, my involvement with these kinds of macro freight issues goes all the way back to 1997, 98, when we were doing Moving South Africa. And all of these things, brings information to government and to the broader stakeholder grouping in the industry and says, this is what we are seeing, and we need to take action. Policies need to put in place, strategies, interventions, and let's begin working at this, because this is what the numbers are telling us. And I think part of the angle that my article took for Focus magazine was that despite statistics, information, reports, trend lines being shown over and over and over, not much has really been done over the last 20 odd years or so. And we at the precipice at the moment, I think, was my cautionary tale in the article.
Elvin, in terms of specific provinces and specific issues, I mean, the one that stands out is obviously the flooding in KwaZulu-Natal. That still feels quite recent, even though it's now been a few months. I think for those of us in the sort of policy world, things happen so fast and we forget about things on the ground and actual people's concrete experiences. So KZN stands out in terms of moving freight around there and the damage that was caused. Are there any provinces that might, to you, stand out as doing the right things? I mean, we've looked at things a bit now from a national level, but in terms of getting things right on a municipal or provincial level, does anything in particular stand out to you?
I think, look, I mean, Chris, I haven't done any specific research into some of the details, but certainly what we hear that comes out in the press and other presentations that gets done by municipalities and provinces and so on, we do get the sense that the Western Cape seems to be getting some things right on managing its road infrastructure. They are making moves now to take over some of the railway infrastructure and activities in the province there, or the city of Cape Town. They are taking some steps to get a handle on the electricity challenges that they've got there. That seems to be where they are, more action orientated. Again, it's not necessarily that it's rocket science, Chris. We sit with the problems, they stare us in the face, and it's about doing some things. So it's very unfortunate what has happened in KZN with the floods, and it's just devastated the infrastructure there. But the steps needs to be taken, and we've got to align all the respective parties to basically get things back on track.
And then, Elvin, just looking forward a bit in terms of potential policy changes or actionable steps that you could recommend maybe to national government. I mean, I'm not going to expect you to solve all the problems, maybe 3 to 5 particular points that stand out. And again, you point out the spending issue. So it's not just a case of allocating massive budgets, but the bang for your buck idea. So making sure that the money goes to the right places, that the right people get it, the right processes, that sort of thing. Just that particular advice or recommendation in terms of policy that you might give.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we've just had recently the DOT published the national rail policy. There's a lot in there about what is wrong with the system. There's a lot of the policy ideas there about how to fix it. There's no shortage, Chris, because it's not rocket science. I think it's about taking, number one, I think we need at national government level and at provincial government level and the 6 major metros, we need some kind of a leadership grouping to then align public and private sector, the Transnets, PRASAs, regulators, other smaller municipalities, the private sector bodies. I think we just need a top leadership team at government to basically pull all of the main stakeholder groupings together and basically just say, we have all these long-term strategies and policies and everything, but for the next 5 years, this is what we're going to do. Transnet, PRASA, we expect you to do A, B, C, D. Government at national level, together with the DTI, Department of Agriculture, and any other relevant departments, supported by National Treasury. This is what we will do to put money in the right places. And then private sector, this is the kind of role we are going to need the private sector. My own personal view is that private sector is not going to solve all our problems. You can't just say concession out half the railway system and all new terminals and all new power stations and everything done. Private sector is going to come in where it's going to be attractive to come in. And private sector comes in when there's sufficient incentives and sufficient action from the public sector. And the playing field is there so that the private sector can come in and then bring their skills, competence, money into the system. So we need to find that balance right. And basically, as I said, have a plan of the next 5 years. I do believe that as much as we need investment in road, because of the backlog and the skewedness of the road rail system at the moment, I think we need a hell of a lot of focus for the next 5 years on getting rail back on track. And from there, we have a foundation to then, in a more balanced way, look at the issues that affect both road and rail and the port system.
Thank you very much for watching. Let us know in the comments below your thoughts on the state of South Africa's railways and networks and some of your ideas for solving the backlog and maintenance issues. Before you leave, a reminder to please like the video and also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not yet done so. Also, we encourage you to become a client of the CRA. You can sign up for our 30-day free trial by clicking on the link in the description below. Until tomorrow, this has been Chris Hattingh for the Center for Risk Analysis. Take care.